Hi everyone, it's Amanda. It's the, what is it? It's the 18th of October 2018. I'm recording this on my iPad. I know that the volume isn't as loud as when I record it on my other camera. I will correct that soon. I just haven't had time to sort it out. So it's either do this now, and it means right now, or it's not going to get done at all today. So bear with me, just put the volume up as high as you can. If you really can't hear me, just look at the comments below this video, because I suspect there'll be a lot of comments on this. It's the subject that actually, in many ways, I didn't really want to discuss, but I absolutely need to discuss to such an extent. I'm sitting here, I haven't even had my breakfast this morning. Archangel Metatron is just absolutely on my back to talk about this today. And it's one of those cases that until I talk about this, nothing else is going to come through. Literally, nothing else is going to come through. This is really important that we look at this as a collective. And the subject is Jamal Khashoggi. Apologies if I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. To be perfectly honest though, I think he would probably be glad that somebody was just paying the respect to be trying to talk about what's happened here, and more importantly what the lessons are for us, and spiritually what does it mean. It's funny because obviously I had that day two days ago with Steve, and one of the videos that we made was about love and evil, and Steve very eloquently talked about the fact that as light workers, if we are not prepared to look at the dark, both within ourselves and in the collective, then really we can't look at the light. Because we talked about duality. We talked about the fact that light and dark do this dance, for want of a better word, between each other. And both energies are real and are on this planet at the moment, and always have been. And so to work on our own selves means working on our own shadow and our own darkness, as well as obviously trying to integrate more light. The thing is, what happens out there in the collective is a reflection of what we all have within ourselves. So you might say, well, how does this guy's death in Turkey have anything to do with me and my life? I'm just going to get on with my life today and do the things I normally do, and I'm just going to ignore that rather unpleasant story. And if you don't know what the unpleasant story is, I'm not going to go into detail about it. It's all there on Google for you to look at. But he basically was a journalist. I think he was an American citizen, born in Saudi Arabia, or certainly lived in Saudi Arabia for a long period of time. And he was a vocal opponent of the regime, particularly the Saudi regime. And he had a voice via the Washington Post. And he was, we think, because there is no body, murdered a few days ago within the Saudi Arabian embassy within Turkey. And he was tortured and he was killed. There is no body. The Turkish authorities well, in fact it was a couple of weeks ago I think this might have happened. They've been allowed in now many days after the disappearance to try to look for clues. Everything will have been wiped. There will be nothing there to find. So it's a very high profile case. The leaders of the world are pretty silent on it, with the exception of Donald Trump. And in many ways, actually, what Donald Trump is saying or not saying reflects all of the leaders of the world. In many ways, his speech, his words last night, where he was talking about the fact really that he doesn't wish to jeopardize the arms deals that are worth billions of pounds to America, doesn't want to upset the Saudis is basically the bottom line, to jeopardise these deals that will bring in money to the country, that will bring in jobs to the country. Now, on one hand, I find that completely and utterly abhorrent, but I'm also very aware that probably most leaders around the world, including my own government in the UK, would be just as guilty. He is only saying in public what others say in private. This is the way that the world's wheels have turned for centuries. But now we're talking an arms race and arms deals that are worth billions of pounds and that keep people in power as long as you keep them sweet. Yes, it stinks. Should we be bothered about it? Metatron says yes, we should, and I'll tell you why. He's very clearly talking to me about blood money. Blood money could also refer to the 30 pieces of silver that was paid to Judas, who went on to hand over Christ to be killed by the authorities. And there is a story of betrayal within the Jamal Khashoggi case. It looks like he was betrayed by somebody he felt he could trust. That's why they got him. So we have stories to do with, we have issues to do with betrayal. We have things that are coming up for us as a collective in terms of blood money. And it's really easy for us to basically look at somebody like Trump or any of the leaders who might come out and say, well, but hold on a minute, the Saudis give us so much money, we can't afford to cross them. Just think about that for one moment. Are you happy for a job, for the benefits that maybe it brings into a country, to be on the back of blood money? It's black and white. Unfortunately, there is no middle ground. You either make peace with it and you think, well, I really don't like the fact that we are supporting war, the ammunition of war, but it's okay because it's keeping everybody in jobs. But I won't really think about the victims of war. I won't think about the children that are maimed by the bombs. I'll just put that to one side. Because I've got my job. I've got my house. I'm not really judging it. I sort of understand it. But I completely know that it's not how we can carry on as a species. If we want to bring in a fairer world, a more just world, a more equal world, then money, how we make money, has to come into question and up for healing. And this is a huge part, I feel, of what Jamal's death, because yes, I believe he's dead, even though we have no body. I believe this is what he was trying to expose many, many things. That's why he was murdered. But actually, one of the big things that will come up from this case is to make people more accountable for where the bread on the table is coming from. And is it soaked in other people's blood? Sorry to be so graphic, but there's no getting away from it. Or is it not? And you may think, well, yes, but, it's got nothing to do with me. I'm not sitting in some Saudi palace making these deals. I don't know what my leader's doing behind my back. The thing is, you've just chosen not to look at it. That's the truth. We've all chosen not to look at it. And really, what we're talking about is ethics. We're talking about morality. And you can make a stand for morality and ethics, your own personal code of conduct, in much smaller ways. But the thing is, those smaller ways lead to bigger change, because the leaders are only doing what they have been elected to do and what they have got away with for many, many hundreds of years. The world has turned according to old principles that in new 5D Earth can no longer be sustained. And it's not going to happen overnight, and it will not be easy to implement any new system. Interesting, one of the things Steve brought up in one of the videos we did, one of the 5, was he was talking about, we might explore this a little bit more, the introduction at some point of a universal system of money. Talking about this subject here now, it almost feels as though that's the only way, actually, to, what Metatron is saying, cleanse the stain of the old system of money that is based on so much pain and, yes, blood. And these billion-dollar deals matter. They matter because they are the, what Metatron is calling the apparatus on which the whole system is built. So in many ways, slippers in the background, in many ways, I'm quite grateful to Donald Trump for probably inadvertently bringing this subject up to be looked at, because it's really easy to get inflamed about it and think, how can he say that? He's only saying what all of them say in private and what all of them do in private. And before all the messages come in about Obama did it, Clinton did it, any of the leaders around the world, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They've all been complicit in it. This is the shocking thing. This is the shocking thing. They've all been complicit in it. Our world and a lot of the economy and the money is based on blood. So that's one thing I wanted to say. Oh yeah, one final thing. Thank you, Metatron. Back to the point about what difference can we make at an individual level. How can the thing about just doing one thing in your life where you stand up for something that you know is wrong, that will feed into the change that needs to come. And you might think it won't, but it will if enough people do it. A couple of examples from my life, my earlier life in my marketing work. And obviously it's not on the scale of what we're talking about here, but it's just something that was important to me that I stood up to, was I used to help marketeers with their brands, basically, to sell more products. That's what market research is. So I used to run focus groups, and I used to interview people, and then I used to report back to the companies, you know, what they could do to sell more cars or sell more chocolate or whatever. And there were 2 businesses that I always said I would just never touch. And both were offered to me during my career. One was cigarette research, and I worked at a company at the time where most of them were smokers, actually. And we used to have, I'm not kidding you, boxes and boxes of cigarettes delivered to us by whoever the company was that we were working for. And a lot of the smokers in the office, sorry, I just fell down. A lot of the smokers in the office thought it was great, you know, free cigarettes. And I refused to do the work. I refused to do it. And it was respected by my boss at the time. And then towards the end of my days of market research, there was another project that came in for one of the leading betting organisations. And effectively it was a campaign to try to get people, it was a television campaign for online gambling. And I thought, I can't do this. How can I look at myself in the mirror tomorrow knowing that I'm trying to sell this? So I refused to do it. And there were 2 little examples, but to me they meant a lot. I stood up for what I believed in or didn't believe in. So think about what you can do, okay? I'm just trying to get this camera set up again so I can chill. Oops, sorry. Flash of leg. Oh, come on. Told you this wasn't rehearsed. Okay. Right, what else do I want to say? Yeah, let's go back to Jamal. That's who prompted all of this. He was born, Metatron said to me, look at his numerology. He was born on the 13th, for God's sake. Of course he was born on the 13th. Number 13, the master number, actually. There is so much that's going to come from this man's death that will be ultimately good. 13 is the energy of the phoenix that rises from the ashes. And I was just shuffling my tarot deck before. I don't even know if I'm going to use them in this session, but I just shuffled them and I said his name 3 times, and I just noticed that on the bottom of the deck we've got the card of judgment, and on the top we've got the card of justice. Justice will be done for this man somehow, some way. Justice also for his family. The truth's going to come out. I don't know when it's going to come out, but it's going to come out. And it's going to come out because he has, well, for many reasons. I'm intuitively picking it up, but also that number 13, he's the phoenix that rises from the ashes. And Will, at this point, I just want to do something ceremonial for him, which is that he died a horrific death. He had a horrific death. They cut off his fingers, for God's sake, when he was alive. Okay, I don't even want to go into what he must have, the pain he must have felt. It chokes me up. So I want to actually send him, maybe you, those of you that are resonating with me and are still listening, this is the Rainbow Bridge. I want to send this man across the Rainbow Bridge because the truth is probably he already is in the arms of the angels. But when you've had a shocking death, there can be fragments that are left behind at the scene. However much they might have wiped away the evidence, however much bleach or acid has been used, remnants of his essence here on earth will still be there. And I want to send him fully 100% to the light. So I just ask you, if you can just go into love, go into your heart, and if you can't, please just switch off now, because really the people that need to do this are the ones that can only come from love, can put aside anything that I've said about Trump or anything that might have triggered you. Let's just come to this man, this man's life, this man's essence, this man's soul, and let's send him across the Rainbow Bridge. So I'm going to open my blind a bit so we get some sunlight coming in. A bit more sun, that's it. And let's spray the rainbow. And we're going to ask Archangel Metatron just to come in to that embassy, to send in the rainbow light. We are going to ask Archangel Metatron just to pick up all the pieces energetically, gather them up, and I'm seeing him gathering them up in his arms, energetic pieces of this man's essence, and it's like every single last shred of it, every single last shred of it is being picked up by Metatron with such precision and love, and he knows exactly where to go. He knows exactly which room to go into. He knows exactly which part of the room to go into, and he is gathering them into himself. And he is now walking across the bridge, and he's taking them to the part of Jamal that's already there. And then there is just this energy exchange, bringing back all the parts of this man to himself in spirit. And we are just sending a huge wave of love. And we're also sending a wave of gratitude and thanks for a light warrior who came in this lifetime to try to uncover the truth, to be a truth seeker is what Metatron is saying, to be a truth worker. We talk about light workers. This man was a truth worker. Okay, that is done. That's done. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm just bringing up now the Washington Post's. What they've done is they've basically they've published his last article that he wrote before he died. Haven't read it all. You can read it yourself online, Washington Post. And the title of it is "What the Arab World Needs Most is Free Expression." Sad to see that, because, I mean, sad on so many levels, but I remember, I can't remember how many years ago, was it 5 years ago? Those of you that have been with me a while might remember this. And I did quite a lot of writing on the Arab Spring, it was called at the time, wasn't it? And the overthrow of some of the governments there. And there was this hope and this rush of expectation that a good, positive new energy was coming in. And it's as though it fizzled out. It's really sad that it fizzled out and actually went backwards. So this last piece that Jamal wrote is "What the Arab world needs most is free expression." Okay, that's what it looks like online. And I woke up today, and that's why I knew I needed to do this video right now, literally right now. And my throat chakra is just like tightening up. And it's reflecting this. It's reflecting this. It's reflecting free expression. Are we free to be able to truly say what we need to say? This man paid the ultimate price for trying to bring truth, to trying to expose. We don't even know what it was that he was maybe even trying to expose. The feeling I have is that he was onto something quite big. He was onto something quite big. And he was silenced as a result of that. And that silencing order came from the highest court in the land. So, yeah, that's, I think that's what I wanted to say. Let's have one final card, shall we? Please, Archangel Metatron on Jamal. Let's put some spiritual protection around all of us. The other thing I said at the start is that this case is bringing up betrayal. So he was very betrayed. 30 pieces of silver. Somebody's done quite well out of his death, basically, in many, many ways. So how can we heal that? We look at those who may have betrayed us in our own life. Who has betrayed you the most? And it's usually the person you least expect, to be perfectly honest. It would have been for this man. It was for Christ. It was one of his disciples. It was Judas. So think about betrayal, and with betrayal, what we have to get to finally is the energy of. So I'm a bit stunned by this card. Is the energy of forgiveness. As I pulled the card of the Empress, the card of the Empress. We're back to the divine feminine energy as the answer to all of this madness. The divine feminine energy comes in on the ray of hope, olive green. Talked about that with Steve. The Empress is the new fertile energy that is based on principles of love, compassion, forgiveness, humility, oneness, and it comes in with the divine feminine energy. And all of these horrors that we're seeing right now, Jamal is just another example of it, is coming from the old patriarchal energy of control, of money, and of power. And that has to crumble, and it will crumble. Let's bring in then the Empress's energy of hope. She's reminding us that some births are more difficult than others. And this is a difficult birth. Her birth is difficult. But it will happen. Struck by this card. Sorry, there we go. It's like she's wearing a coat of many colours there. You see that? It's like a coat of many colours. All of the colour rays around her. Look at the piece of these colours above her. I'll tell you what the other thing strikes me about those colours. Violet and green together. That combination of violet and green. Within the colour mirror system that I used to teach, the violet and green energy is the energy of the tower. The tower will fall. The tower is the old paradigm. It's the old structures upon which this earth has been based. Money. What can you do for me? Power. And that has come at too high a price. And please know that what we are talking about here in this video, I know it's difficult, but it has to be talked about, because if we are spiritual warriors, which is what we are, and we are trying to help the Archangel Metatron energy in this world to expose, to bring up to the light that which needs to be exposed, what you don't do is just push it away and not look at it. That's how they get away with it. That's how they've got away with it for thousands of years. I'm just seeing this big wheel turning in my mind's eye now. My God, it's huge. It's like one of those big, I'm almost seeing like a big water wheel. You know, the old mills, and they used to have like the big wooden water mill. That's what I'm seeing in my mind's eye. And I'm being shown it, and it's literally, it's like, it's creaking. It's like, it can't quite turn. But then there is a sudden rush of what I can only describe as water energy that just propels it, literally propels it forward. And that is the tipping point of the divine feminine energy that comes into the earth. But it's not quite here. But I tell you what, she is tapping on that door. And the other thing I want to say is that all that's being exposed, she is staying in peace. She's staying in peace. It's important we talk about it, but we mustn't go too much into anger and bitterness and vitriol, because then what we do is we feed more of that into the old system. The only way this new system can come in is through the energies of love, compassion, and forgiveness. Let's end with Metatron. If you wanted to know what was on the bottom of the pack, by the way, with the Empress, it's the King of Wands, which is the King of Fire. And, well, there's many ways you could interpret that. To me, they go pretty nicely together. This is holy fire, though. This isn't old fire of damnation. This is the divine masculine with holy fire, and this is the divine feminine with a heart that is so open and loving, and together they rock the world. Okay, Metatron, last words for you, from you. He says, then you can go and have your breakfast, Amanda. Thank you. He's talking about mindfulness. He's talking about the importance of mindfulness. He's saying why they get away with this is that we're not mindful. We don't think about the price, that it's the price. I'm being shown my breakfast I'm about to eat. You know, it's like the industries behind the wealth behind so much of what we enjoy is based on corruption, greed, blood money. Choose ethically, he's saying. Support ethical businesses. Get behind ethical people and be ethical yourself. I'm going to leave it there. Much love. And the last thing I want to say is rest in peace, Jamal, and thank you for your service to the light. Much love, everybody. I'll be back with another topic soon. See the angel orb.